freedom to lead.
You have to kind of work twice as hard.
Good morning. Welcome to the Friday edition of The Conversation here on TOS TV Network. Feels as though the week actually did run by. I am Ade Suwalsi.
And I'm Merciful Ajinimo. Good morning.
Exactly. Osaze would not be joining me on the show this morning. Okay, before we go on a break, I'm going to quickly bring you the quote of the day. Well, that was Maya Angelou, giving you motivation for Friday. It just goes to say if at first you don't succeed, dust yourself off, and try again. Maya Angelou was one of the top civil rights activists and embraced the spirit of positive thinking and sheer determination. Now we're going to go on a quick break, and when we do get back, we'll be taking you through stories and happenings from across the African continent. Welcome back, taking you through developments across Africa, starting from Ethiopia, where the African Report reported on Tuesday that Ethiopian Airlines and South Africa's Airlink are, well positioned to emerge as African industry winners from the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the outlook for South African Airways and Air Mauritius, meanwhile, might be bleak, but Associate Director of African Matters in London, Indigo Ellis, says that no African airline will emerge from the pandemic unscarred. I mean, that's quite expected, judging from how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected different sectors of the African economy.
Yeah, definitely, it has affected a lot of African countries, and just from this, from what they have to say here, it's obvious that we leverage on airlines and boat, using the water to travel and everything. So we still need to depend on the airlines. So it's not like it's going away into extinction like people may believe. So that's a positive for these African countries.
Exactly.
So moving on, we have the Nigerian Governors Forum will today hold an emergency online meeting to discuss how the 3.92 million doses of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines should be distributed in the country. The meeting is a single item agenda where only the delivery of the COVID-19 vaccines and their distribution in the country would be discussed. Now, Nigeria on Tuesday received the 3.94 million doses of the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine manufactured by the Serum Institute of India and shipped via the COVAX facility.
Okay, moving over to Ghana, where the court in Ghana has dismissed opposition's election challenge. Now, Ghana Supreme Court on Thursday dismissed the opposition election challenge led by runner-up John Mahama, who asked for a rerun of the December 7th vote won by incumbent Nana Akufo-Addo. Now, Akufo-Addo of the New Patriotic Party won the vote with 51.59% ahead of Mahama on the National Democratic Congress, that's the NDC party, with 47.36%, according to official figures. Former President Mahama contested the results, accusing the Electoral Commission of vote paddling in favor of his longtime rival. Ghana's new parliament was split down the middle, with the two main parties winning 137 seats each.
Yeah, so I'm still moving on, still on COVID-19 story we talked about earlier. Women in Africa are less likely to die from COVID-19 than men, but more likely to succumb to maternal complications due to limited access to reproductive services since the pandemic started, the UN said Thursday, citing a report. A study of 28 African countries, including Guinea, Mauritius and Uganda, showed that on average, women accounted for a slightly smaller proportion of coronavirus infections and deaths compared to men. Overall, around 41% of reported COVID-19 cases were women, although the figures ranged widely from 31% in Niger to more than 57% in South Africa. But the pandemic had exposed gaps in health services, with women suffering the brunt of disrupted access to care. I think this is more like, it's not a direct, outlook from the COVID-19, but still it affected the women. So if you're saying it has affected more women than men, more women than men or more men than women, it's almost the same thing, because if you're having issues from hospitals because you can attend them because of the pandemic and lockdown, it's still like a reason, right?
Yeah.
COVID-19 is still the main reason. So
indirectly it has affected. It also
both,
affected
like, I'll say
both
50-50
parties.
for me, yes, both men
Yes.
and women.
Okay. That's quite interesting. Staying with COVID-19, we're going to go on a break, and in that time, we'll be bringing you COVID-19 updates from across Africa. That was COVID-19 update from across Africa, and if you can see, we had over 3.9 million total cases. That's almost 4 million in Africa.
Yeah, but really, I can't help but notice the recovery rate.
Yeah,
3.5.
So we're doing quite well. We're doing quite well.
Actually.
But still, as I always tell you, you should always take precautions. I mean, we have to beat COVID in 2021. We can't take it over to 2022.
Definitely.
So take precautions, wear your face mask, sanitize your hands, wash your hands properly. You know, if vaccines are already being rolled out in your country, please get vaccinated. And if you're in a country where vaccines are not being rolled out yet, just take proper precautions so you can protect yourself and protect, you know, the next person. All right, having said that, we're going to go on another break, and when we come back, we'll be taking you through what the headlines are saying this morning.
TOS TV Network mobile app is now available. You can now catch up on our breaking news, stream our programs live, watch out for the latest update on sports and politics as they unfold. You can also get notifications for our upcoming programs and events. All these on our TOS TV Network mobile app, available on Apple Store and Google Play Store. TOS TV News from Africa by Africans.
Being a journalist means in-depth analysis that unravels hidden truths, that question the status quo and fact-checks government.
These criminal elements hiding under the cloak of surveillance contractors are the APC elements.
Do you have facts to prove that? Being a journalist means waking up every day with a burning desire for peace, equity, and justice for all citizens.
We're being told that the choice you have is to take the lesser of two evils.
It means patriotism via the prism of objectivity and accountability. It means giving my platform to the masses to discuss issues that matter to them.
Some of them, if they bring budget, and the budget they look. Some they sleep. They're going to ask how much we are on. I have it.
Thereby shaping government policies and laws. My name is Osasu Igbenedion, and I am the People's Journalist.
Welcome back. Don't forget, you can be a part of the conversation across our social media platform, TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also check out our website at www.tostvnetwork.com. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel at TOS TV Network on YouTube. Now, moving straight into newspaper headlines from this morning. I'm going to be starting from the Blueprint newspaper, starting with the very obvious headline on the Blueprint newspaper this morning that says, as COVID-19 vaccination starts on Saturday, federal government vows not to consider states yet to meet conditions. Has three riders under that. The first one says, we're ready. That's coming from the governors. The second one, Ogun, Imo, waiting to receive vaccines. And then the third one says, UBEC expends 20 billion naira on pandemic. Now, going over to the top of the Blueprint newspaper, border communities help smuggles fight, kill my men. That's coming from the Customs CG. And then from the NDLEA owes workers 4 billion naira entitlements. That's from Mara. And then just beside that, farmers headers clash threatens repayment of CBN's ABP loans. That story is on page 33. And underneath that, appointments development, Niger Delta Group alleges injustice. That story is on page 9 of the Blueprint newspaper. The last headline on Blueprint newspaper, just underneath the picture of the day, we have drug barons funding terrorists and bandits. That's coming from Lawan. That's on page 6. And the rider under that, coming from Zamfara, bandits strike again, kidnap over 60 women and children. The second rider, troops kill group leader, Rufai Makaji, dozen others in Kaduna. Nigeria set up security trust fund. And that story is on page 5 of the Blueprint newspaper.
And we go straight to the National Economy newspaper, and the big story there is $5.8 billion Mambila Power Project exists only on paper 49 years after conception. Northeast Governors Forum expresses frustration. And just top of the newspaper, we have crude oil prices surge by 5% on OPEC plus production agreement. And we can just go down and see MTN expands cardless cash withdrawal service to 20 banks, and you can see that on page 5. And following it is CBN's Agric Guarantee Scheme on the right, 122 billion naira. You can get that story on page 7.
Okay, from the national economy, we move over to the Daily Trust, starting from the very top where it says Buhari orders security beef up at borders. And just beside it, mixed reactions over call for beef boycott by Afenifere and others. And then gunmen abduct 50 in Zamfara, burn houses. And then moving over to the very obvious headline there, target vulnerable poor with COVID-19 vaccine, the federal government is urging. The first rider under that headline, it should not be politicized, experts. Hitches with registration portal, states express readiness to reach all. That story is on page 5 of the Daily Trust. Now moving over under, I think the picture of the day is on, the food block issue that, we've been trying to battle in Nigeria. Under that, we have 40 internal memo responsible for 101 missing soldiers report. That's coming from the Nigerian Army. Police rearrange doctor over false rape allegation. Niwa increases cargo trips from Lagos to Onitsha port. And the last story there says drug barons funding terrorists and bandits. That's replicated on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. But before we move on to the next headlines, I'm more interested in this COVID-19 distribution story, because the federal government is saying this targets the vulnerable and the poor, and then I'm seeing where experts are saying the COVID-19 vaccine should not be politicized, and it just takes me back to when I read something on social media that Nigerians are actually expecting it to be hoarded because it's supposed to be what happens regularly in the country, and then somebody is saying you cannot keep it, you don't need more than one shot, so don't politicize it, don't hoard it,
just sell it.
Yeah, don't sell it, so just give it out for the purpose with which it has been rolled out. What was your take?
Right
on
from
that?
the time the vaccine came into the country, and people have been saying a lot of things online, saying that we don't know when this is coming to us, we're just keeping our fingers crossed and what have you, and they're saying, and people are like, oh, the government is saying, media houses are saying this thing is actually going to get to the vulnerable and poor, but people have this bad I don't know, this expectation that it will eventually not get to them, and if it does get to them, to be at a fee. So it's now in our place to make sure we track to an extent, see how this is being done. Because personally, for me, I feel like everything should be done decently and orderly, like from the the poor, the vulnerable, those who are aged 16 and above, and you understand, like that's just what's expected. But here in this country, people are always saying this has happened before, we're not just having vaccines for the first time, so they're expecting all manner of bad negative vibes and energy and everything.
Okay, all right, moving on.
Okay, so we'll just move on to the Daily Times, and the big story there is government moves to tighten security around borders, and that can be found on page 2. And just ahead, on top of the newspaper, you can see drug barons funding terrorists, bandits, says Lawan. Drug barons funding terrorists, bandits, says Lawan. And just being at the newspaper there, you see desertion. Army denies story of troops desertion after Boko Haram attacks in Northeast. That can be found on page 4. And talking about the vaccine, Buhari, Osinbajo, Mustafa to get vaccine jabs tomorrow. That story can be found on page 2. I just want to just, talk about this briefly. So we're expecting our president and vice president of Nigeria to get their jobs tomorrow. So
first, yeah.
Nigerians are waiting.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but where I come from, we have people saying, oh, we need to see these things happen. Let's see them get vaccinated. So this is a story that people are, anxious about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And just beside that, we talk about cryptocurrency. Why ban on $600 million cryptocurrency transaction market may be short-lived. That story can be found on page 22.
Okay, moving over from that to the Friday leadership, starting from the very top of the Friday leadership. Immigration installs technology to monitor borders from headquarters, and then moving over to the next one. Mambila Power Project exists only on paper. That's coming from, the governors in Nigeria. States yet to meet conditions won't get COVID-19 vaccines, coming from the federal government. And just to replicate what Mesful said earlier, PMB, that's President Muhammad Buhari, or Shibanjo to be vaccinated tomorrow. Change tactics, that's going to the very gaping headline on the Friday leadership. Change tactics, retired general tells service chief. Or change tactics, retired generals tell service chiefs. And I think that's on the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. And the first rider says state of emergency in banditry ravaged states will end terror. Northeast governors to form own security outfit. Bandits abduct 70, burn houses in Zamfara. Now, so moving over, just beside the picture of the day on abduction, we won't scrap boarding schools. That's coming from, I think, the states in northern Nigeria. Develop security template for students, workers, safety. You can find all those stories on the Leadership Friday. And it's as though, I think every time on the show, we always say something. We always say that it's as though when we move over, when we feel like we're moving over from one issue of insecurity, we get to hear something else. Yeah. It's as though these people were kidnapped, they were being released, and then bandits striking again. So it's like a back and forth. I'm excited that the former service chiefs are telling the new service chief, I think we need to change tactics.
Yes,
what we've been doing before isn't working. I think we need to look at new ways to tackle, banditry and insurgency in Nigeria. And I'm looking forward to what they're going to come up with. And because I feel like these terrorists and these bandits are trying to tell you guys can't do anything. True. Do you understand? And it's the same, because I think when the new service chief were appointed, I know there was a video that came out where Shekau was saying that you're going to, fail just as your predecessors failed. You can't do anything. There's nothing you can do. We're going to keep striking. We're just waiting for you. And it's as though they keep sending messages out over and over again.
I know the expectation from Nigerians when they changed the service chiefs was that this will, come to a full stop, or even, drastically reduce the level and the rate of the insecurity issues. But still, it's still happening. So it is left to one option only, to change the strategy, the tactics, to see if this can be, put to a stop completely. So we're hopeful that if they do change the tactics, not the usual way they've been doing this before, if there's like a change, because we're open to all the options. Exactly. We're tired of these things, coming to our screens every day.
Negotiations, amnesty, all of those stuff. It isn't working.
No, it's not.
So it's about time to maybe, face it head on and just do stuff like that. All right, having said all of that, that's much we can take on the newspaper headlines for this morning. We're going to go on a break as always, and when we come back, I will be taking you through what's trending on social media. Welcome back. It's about that time where I take you through what's trending on social media. And guess what? So a recent survey conducted has shown that 45% of Nigerian adults have indicated interest in leaving the country in the next 5 years. Yes. According to the survey, 45% of adults revealed that they plan to emigrate from the country in the period stated above, that's in the next 5 years. That's the highest share amongst the 12 countries surveyed across 4 continents. So across all 4 continents, Nigerians have indicated that, more Nigerians actually have indicated that they plan to, emigrate from the country in the next 5 years. So in line with this, a lot of people have gone on Twitter, to, talk about the plans or just to contribute to, the issue at hand. And I'm going to read out a few tweets to that regard. This first person at Anwuzo said, "Leaving Nigeria is a skincare routine." And I think I can relate to that because you get to see pictures of before and after when this person was in Nigeria, they look, and then after they left Nigeria, they look fresher and cleaner, and it's as though, I don't get it. Is the weather like
how it was, how it's going?
Yeah,
it's
exactly. Stuff like that. And it's just feel like, man, living in Nigeria is actually a skincare thing. And I think I understand where that person is coming from. And this other one from @_Debbie, Debbie_Lee actually. Child, living in Nigeria is top priority now. And then the next person is at Badmas. This then and now is just filled with people living in Nigeria. Not me say I like suffer. Me too, one day I will leave this country for good. And then the last one is from BC96. From the pictures we've seen today, living in Nigeria is almost always worth it. If you can go. Leave Dangote cement for the people who want to do bricklayer and build the nation. It's as though this person has lost total faith in Nigeria and total interest. Is like I'm not interested.
It's not almost as if everyone is talking about if you're in Nigeria, you're suffering.
Yeah.
So it's the thing. So we want to leave to get things better. And it has always happened, but it's just like, as times, change, it's becoming, becoming a thing. It's not everyone wants to leave.
Yeah.
And I'm asking Adesu, are you leaving soon?
Well,
that was a question, yeah? Yes, because it's the norm. You go to your phone, you see like the other person said skincare routine, yeah? You see there's definitely a change. What's causing this change? I don't know, is it the weather?
Maybe the weather, or maybe the structure of things, because people always say things are more structured outside, in more civilized economies than what we have in Nigeria, where things are working. So even because I know quite a number of persons will tell you, if you put the same effort you put into making things work here in Nigeria as an individual, when you're outside of Nigeria, you put the same effort, you get better results.
Not that it's all positive.
Yeah, that's why I think that's why the last person say almost always work, because they're the ones that are not worth it. But I think maybe 70 or larger percent of the time it's worth it.
Yeah,
right?
very quickly, a video showed up, on the internet last week, and someone saying if you live in Nigeria to the country, now that the borders will soon be open and stuff, you should get a skill because it's not easy out here.
It's not,
People
exactly.
are there saying the same
Especially
thing.
with the economies trying to recover, with the pandemic and everything, things are not going to be as seamless as it was before, COVID-19 came. So if you just live in the country and thinking, oh, when I get there, it's going to be better.
Yeah, like some will say it will shock you.
It will shock you.
That's what they
You
say.
really have to get a skill and an education and a skill. A survival skill, not just any skills that can actually help you survive. It's because you don't know how things work there. You're going, it's your first time and all of that stuff. It's a new environment, and it's a lot different than what you know here. Yeah, so before you get thrown off balance, you got to,
hold your ground.
All right, moving on. That's too much you can take on the social media trend this morning. We're going to go on a break, and when we come back, we're going to be going through the crux of the conversation. That is the big story. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to the big story here on the conversation, and today the first topic of discussion we're going to be talking about is finding the right balance for fitness and work life. Now, the most common reason people give for not exercising is that we're too busy. They simply do not have the time for it, whether it's due to work, family, or children, or a combination of, all of those. You may say that exercise just does not fit into your busy work schedule, especially if you have a 9-to-5 job, right? But studies have shown that more than 80% of urban professional Nigerian adults did not meet the WHO recommendation of physical activity. Nigerians who work 9 to 5 daily may find it very difficult to maintain that sort of healthy lifestyle, and there are a couple of contributing factors to that. Joining us on the program this morning is to discuss balancing your work life and fitness lifestyle is Dr. Smith Olufemi Samuel, a consultant chemical pathologist at Obafemi Awolowo University Teaching Hospital Complex in Ile-Ife. Good morning, Dr. Smith.
Good morning, my sister, and good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you for joining us on the show. How is Ile-Ife this morning?
Yeah, thanks. Ilesha is fine.
Okay, you're calling from Ilesha, not Ile-Ife.
Yeah, I'm presently in Ilesha.
Okay.
I work in Ile-Ife.
Oh, okay, amazing. Okay, now we're going to be discussing, how to balance work life with a busy schedule, how to, infuse fitness into your very busy lifestyle. Yeah. So how can working class individuals find a balance between work and a healthy lifestyle? How do we find a balance, especially people who work a 9-to-5 job?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question.
Mm-hmm.
I want to start by what WHO called health.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's very important to know the definition of health, because most of the time when there is no disease or when we don't have any complaints in our body, we feel that we are healthy. And WHO said the complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when there's no disease or when we don't have headache, that doesn't mean that we are healthy. And unfortunately, because of globalization, urbanization, and civilization, we realize that majority of our workers or staffs in organizations, they put in more work than their body can actually take.
Okay.
In the process, they become unhealthy unknowingly and unconsciously to them. Because of increased responsibility to work, working longer hours, and because of the sedentary lifestyle that we now have to live. You understand, people stay more in offices where you have ACs, and then they sit looking at working on computers, sitting over long hours, and all these activities have adverse effects on our body unknowingly.
Okay, doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we heard you spoke about the 9 to 5. The air conditioner and the office from the morning to the evening. So what are some of these health challenges that are associated with such level of inactiveness for people who are not having these exercises?
Please, can you come again? I can't hear you well.
Yeah, so what are some of the health challenges, associated with such level of inactiveness, not, being fit or having exercises done?
Yeah, just having a sedentary lifestyle. What are some of the health implications?
Because of this sedentary lifestyle and the various things I've talked about, majority of us realize that these people have abnormal sleep patterns. A lot of patients come to us and they say, I can't sleep well. And I'm not thinking about anything, but it's because of their work ethics and unhealthy eating habits and lack of adequate exercise. You understand? To several medical conditions. A lot of people have hypertension, diabetes mellitus, in fact, depression, because stress comes in. By the time you work longer hours, you begin to have stress, and eventually you have a lot of people that get burned out.
Okay.
You understand? And because of the sedentary lifestyle, we have something we call dyslipidemias, abnormal lipids. You understand? The bad lipids accumulating in our bodies, and those people are predisposed to cardiovascular disease conditions. You understand? The bad lipid we used to talk about low density lipoproteins, and the good lipid they are supposed to be in our body, which we call the high density lipoprotein, drops. You understand? The lipid that is good for the heart drops, while the bad one accumulates. And the patients now have a risk of developing cardiovascular disease conditions, hypertension. Some people may even develop stroke. You understand?
Yeah.
And research has not found out that because of this sedentary lifestyle, our vitamin D levels drops and predisposes us to infection. You understand?
Okay.
Especially.
Okay. I want to ask something. You've mentioned all of this, but as opposed to having a sedentary lifestyle, there are people who say, I don't have to work out because I have an active job, right? Yeah. I get to move up and down, all of that. Can that be excused? Like, do you not have to work out or exercise if you have an active job that doesn't just require you just sitting on a spot?
Well, if we have works that exert us physically,
okay,
you understand that, okay, maybe you have to trek or you have to walk and to deliver services, that's a form of exercise.
Okay.
But majority of us that work inside building and you have to sit for a very long time, that's a different kettle of fish or a different ball game entirely. But if you have our works that makes you very active throughout the day, it's a form of exercise. However, the stress aspect of it too have to be managed appropriately.
Yeah, so there has to be a balance.
Yes, there has to be balance.
Good. So you've itemized, you've highlighted, some of the health challenges and also some of the benefit. So now, are there any workplace exercises or routines that one can engage in for those who are having a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. job routine, or is there anything you can talk about in that aspect?
Yes.
Okay.
There are.
Okay.
Actually, the first thing and the most essential thing that you need to imbibe is a life of exercise. And people that when you get to work, you actually don't have time to exercise, or you stay much on seats, you realize that you need to actually wake up early to have some time to exercise yourself. Now, if you don't have time for that, there's something we call lunchtime exercise. Okay, that maybe if you have worked 8 to 12, and you have a break of 1 hour, you can organize a lunchtime exercise just for 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the place of work. That is why we have the Occupational Health and Safety Act that tells us that the organizers of our workplace should make it suitable for us, so that we are able to have a healthy living. So in the workplace, there is nothing bad having a gym or an exercise avenue that you can, when you have worked for some hours, you have a break, and within 30 minutes, you can actually exercise yourself. Now, there's another thing, which is teaming up with colleagues to do exercise. Sometimes when you do it alone, it becomes stressful.
Yeah.
Or it becomes, yes. But when you have a group of 5 or 6 or 10 people that you have the same goal or common goal to make sure you exercise and live fit, you understand, you have people teaming up, then registering in gyms. If eventually you don't have time during the week, during the weekends, Saturdays, Sundays, you can register in gyms and go to gym and relax. You understand?
Yeah.
Also, there's something what we call setting up office fitness challenge. You understand? Office fitness challenge. Right. Yes, even the organization, the organizers, or the managers of our organization, they give us an avenue to compete within ourselves. All you have people that, you understand, you have people that play football.
Yeah, thank you so much, Doctor, for your time.
We have to let you go at this point, but thank you so much for joining the show this morning.
Of course. You're still watching the conversation, and the big story continues after the break.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, warm welcome back to the conversation. In the next few minutes, we'll be looking at, setting the African agenda at the World Trade Organization. Now, Nigeria's Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has resumed her role as the Director General of the World Trade Organization, the WTO, and she has taken her oath of office and has vowed to deliver results in the position entrusted to her. Let's take a look at her, her first day in office.
Good morning, Dr. Ngozi.
How are you? Good to see you. I remain honored and humbled by the confidence members have placed in me. I'll bring all my knowledge, passion, experience, and persistence to the task at hand, reforming the organization and achieving results. I, the undersigned, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, solemnly undertake to exercise in all loyalty, discretion, and conscience the functions entrusted to me as an international citizen. I'm so excited. Congratulations.
Welcome back. That was our very own Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, on first day in office. Now, there's a sense that this is Africa's time at the World Trade Organization, and there are great expectations that Okonjo-Iweala will champion, the continent's interest at the WTO. Now, joining us this morning to discuss this conversation is Mr. Leonard Ugbaja, Executive Director of the Center for Trade, Business Environment Advocacy, to give us some perspective into the subject matter this morning. Good morning, Mr. Leonard, rather. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us on the show. Now, so we're going to be discussing, how we're looking at setting the African agenda at the World Trade Organization. That's the discussion for this morning. So now, how is Dr. Ngozi's emergence going to serve Africa's interest at the World Trade Organization?
Well, thank you very much. I'll start with a caveat to say that the position of the Director General of the WTO is it's an international public service position. So basically, it means that the person appointed is appointed to serve in his or her capacity, not to represent the interest of any country or region necessarily, but to represent the interest of all the members.
Okay.
Now, having said that, you cannot rule out the fact that certain issues come to play depending on the person's background. So that would determine, for example, the kind of issues the leader is going to champion. So Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is a Nigerian. She's from Africa.
Yeah.
So it is expected that African interests would occupy a prime position in the WTO at this time, and these interests are quite a few. So, for example, first understanding the position of Africa in the WTO would help us to appreciate these interests better. So Africa is what you call a developing country in the WTO. There are two broad classifications, the developing and the developed countries. And then within the developing country classification, you also have the least developed countries. So now, within the WTO, the balance of rights and obligations, go to these group of countries differently. So what are the issues facing developing countries to which the Africans are part of? Now, one of that is, we'll start from the Doha Development launched in 2001 that has not been completed up to today. Now, what does that round seek to achieve? It basically seeks to make the rules more favorable and more flexible to the developing countries. Some of the issues on the table for the Doha negotiation is the elimination of harmful agricultural subsidies in developed countries like the US, like the EU. Now, how is this important to Africa? We are saying that if we're supposed to be trading in the same global market, but you use subsidies to support your own farmers, and we can't afford those subsidies to support our own farmers. Or even when we can afford it, the rules don't allow us to use the same subsidies, then there's something wrong with that. So we're asking, there has to be a serious commitment in the gradual phasing out of those harmful export subsidies that the developed countries, especially the US, EU, use to support their farmers, so that we can compete effectively, with them. That's just one of the issues. Now, a subset of the subsidy issue, of the agriculture subsidy issue, is cotton subsidy. Now, so we have especially 4 African countries, we call them the Cotton Four, Benin, Burkina, Mali, and Togo, who are major producers of cotton, but whose cotton production is gravely affected by the cotton subsidy. So it's expected that the issue of cotton subsidies will also take the center stage. Then there's the issue in intellectual property. So the trade-related intellectual property rights agreement at the WTO basically tries to protect the holders of intellectual property from unfair use of those rights by other countries. And now, within that loop, you have the issue of access to medicine, and that's very important in the context of COVID-19. So, can a company in South Africa, in Africa, for example, not just in South Africa, for example, use the process of compulsory licensing to produce generic versions of COVID-19 vaccines or other drugs that have been developed and patented by companies elsewhere? Now, theoretically, this is possible, but in practice, it is difficult. So what the WTO has tried to, the discussions around the WTO is to try to see how to make the provisions more flexible to respond to public emergencies, especially the COVID-19. Now, this is more important for Africa because we, more than other regions, I think we lack the capacity to manufacture or to develop our own vaccines domestically.
Okay, Mr. Leonard, I'm sorry. If you were to set an agenda for Dr. Ngozi's, for Dr. Ngozi to run with in positioning Africa's trade, what would that agenda be?
Well, just like some of these issues I'm highlighting, it will be expected by the African countries that she will take them up and champion them. So, so it's expected also that she will provide strategic support for the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Yes, because the AFCFTA is kind of subset of WTO because it is based on WTO rules. But now this is for Africa. So the Africans are saying we want to be able to develop our own internal trade more, and there are a lot of technical issues, in implementation that require capacity building, that require hand holding. Now, under the WTO, you have the aid for trade mechanism, that basically supports developing countries to trade better by providing them with the necessary expertise and other capacity. So she can focus more attention in increasing the funding available for aid for trade and then channeling effectively for the implementation of the AFCFTA agreement. That's one of. Then she's already championing one of the issues, and that's on the fisheries subsidy. So we'll see after she assumed the office, after she was inaugurated. One of the first things she did was to visit the melting ice outside of the WTO that has been erected by some civil society organizations to create awareness around the harmful fishing subsidies. So because some of these developed countries grant subsidies to their fishing companies and trawlers in the heights, those fishing companies tend to overfish, especially where the location of their fishing is contiguous to waters of developing countries where other small-scale fishers also fish. Now, you realize that the effect is pushing out the smallholders from that business of fishing. So when these big trawlers come and take all the fish, the smallholders don't see anything to take. Now, that's from the economic perspective. But from the environmental perspective, it's also depleting the resources that is available, to the earth as a whole. So she's already championing that issue. That's another important one. Now, the issue of balance of political interest within the WTO, and this is where you talk about decision making and that and all that. So most times decisions are made by the powerful countries, and the countries of Africa may not have anything. But with her presence there, it's expected that she should ensure some level of broader representation in decision making within the WTO. So these are some of the very few issues that she could champion for the interest of Africa.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Leonard, for joining us on the show this morning. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so we'll have to let you go at this point. But thank you so much. I hope we can have you on the show another time.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Now, that's the much that we can take on the conversation this morning. But there's no gainsaying, though, that Africa's population will be very critical, to the international system over the coming decade as its economies accelerate from their current low base. To have an African economist at the helm of global trade policy is a great strategic win for the continent.
Yes,
I'm
it
sure
is, actually.
you would
It
agree
is,
with
yeah.
me. All right, thank you so much for joining the conversation this morning. As I always tell you, do not forget you can be a part of the community. Follow TOS TV Network across all social media platforms. TOS TV Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also check out our website at www.tostvnetwork.com. And also subscribe to YouTube, TOS TV Network on YouTube, for amazing lineup of programming that we have for you on there. I am Ade Suwasuyi.
And I am Merciful Ajinomo. Thanks for watching.